So when you study like this book, it is one of the best ones. But even though this guy studied the Nahuatl language, he studied all these different things, it still gets into the interpretations of things, the mistranslations of things. Give you an example of one. I think most of you have heard about Quetzalcoatl or Quetzalcoatl, as sometimes mispronounced. And they say, oh, it's feathered serpent. Quetz means feathered, and Quetzal, and then Coat means serpent, feathered serpent. And you can see an image. It's a serpent with feathers on it. How much more obvious can you be? It isn't really feathered serpent. The Quetzal is referring to precious or beautiful, because there is a word actually for feathered. If we want to call it feathered serpent, we would call it feathered serpent. But even Coat has two meanings. One of it is serpent, and the other one is twin. And twinning is a very important concept in the theology. Duality, life, death, day, night, male, female, etc., all the other dualities of the universe. So even when you're reading books like this, there are the mistranslations, misinterpretations, and you can spend, again, I think I bought this book like 1970 something, and it's well-worn, notes all over the place, and I've been going through it. So I made that note in what year and go back, because as you study more and more, even with myself, I said, gee, I read the very same thing like 10 years ago, and I've got this whole other layer of interpretation now. And this is my way of saying, with everything that I have told you, it's a very complicated concept, the theology. The best way that you can understand it is to take a good course in astronomy, in physics, so you can understand astronomy and physics. Study the literature of our people. I'm going to read one piece for you, and to give you kind of a little bit more of an understanding of this. And you can find this. I did a short version of it. It's a much longer version of this. And this is would be in an anthology of mythology. Okay. But the question is this really mythology? Coatlicue was sweeping the temple one day when she found the feather and placed it in her blouse between her breasts. She quickly learned she was pregnant. Coyolxauhqui, Coatlicue's daughter, and her 400 brothers, collectively called the Senson Huitznawa, became enraged when they saw that their mother was pregnant. Prompted by Coyolxauhqui, they plotted to kill their own mother for the disgrace she had brought upon them. Coatlicue, unaware of her children's plots, she was totally unaware. One of the brothers, of the 400 brothers, came to speak to the child in the womb, not to the mother, came to speak to the child in the womb to warn him of the plot. The child in the womb asked the one brother to warn him as the plotters were arriving to kill him and his mother. Then, as Coyolxauhqui and the 400 brothers reached the temple to slay their mother, the brother warned, "They are here, little brother." In a single move, the child exited the womb as Huitzilopochtli, born fully armored, and killed his 400 brothers, and stabbed and beheaded his sister with his Chiucoat, his turquoise serpent, his magic sword. Her body fell from the top of the temple and broke into the pieces at the base of a mountain. This is a story that can be looked at with European eyes as a simple mythology of gods and violence, or it can be looked at with multiple meanings with which it was intended. Astronomically, as the birth of the sun and the death of the night, with its moon and the stars and the death of Venus. Creation-wise, it can be looked at as the birth of the universe and the Big Bang, the birth of time, the placement of order in the universe. Coatlicue is a representation of material in the universe. But yet she is a she, and she is sweeping before the Big Bang. And she has a feather that she finds, that she puts between her breasts. And it's an eagle feather. The eagle is represented, or represents, the sun. And her daughter, Coyolxauhqui, is a representation of the moon. And the 400 just means countless, or in English, thousands or millions. It just means the stars. So her brothers, the moon, and her brothers, the stars. And the one brother who comes basically to snitch on the others and comes to talk to the baby in the womb is the first star and the last star, Venus. And when you look at the rest of this and you run across Huitzilopochtli, which is a representation of Tonatiuh, or the sun, and the Xiuhcoat, the sword, is a representation of time. It's the beginning of time. So, and I can get into other layers of it, but it's one story, and you can look at it as simply it's night, and the sun is coming up, and it starts killing the stars to this blue that we get, kills the moon, and who's the last one to die? Venus. That's the little snitch brother, and that's the last one. It's also the first star, you see, which is not really a star. So it's giving you a whole lesson in astronomy through what's called mythology. But it's also telling you basically the story of creation. And it's also telling you there's a whole bunch of different layers to this one story. And there's nothing really quite equivalent in European or Middle Eastern way of thinking. You can say that maybe about some of Hindu literature. I don't know enough about Chinese or others, but this is part of the problem in studying it. It requires a lot of study. And that is why we end up today with Aztec religion, why we end up with our own people basically following New Agers. The biggest New Ager, the godfather of New Age, is Carlos Castañeda. A lot of people don't know that he was debunked, that he admitted that he falsified, that he created. Had he said it was fiction that he was creating, everything would be fine, but he was saying they were true experiences. And there are young people who run across a book today and they think it's actually true. It's not found in fiction, it's found in metaphysics. But he is basically the beginning of the destruction of what little understanding there was of our theology. And then you have people like this guy Ruiz, I forget what, he's a Don Ruiz. That he's a Toltec descendant. As I was explaining earlier, That's an impossibility. It's like somebody in Iraq today saying, "Oh, I'm a descendant of the Sumerians." For those of you who don't know, that's thousands of years before BC. Nobody could possibly have traced themselves that far. And with the Toltecs, basically, what you're really talking about is Teotihuacan, and which again, that goes back BC. So you got the fraud of this New Age stuff, this fraud of Toltec, and you have the Aztec dancers that are out there that call themselves Aztec dancers, their source of knowledge. And they're dancing with crosses of Jesus Christ, and they got the images of Virgin of Guadalupe, which is just Mary, mom of Jesus. And they bring this all and they distort it, with them it's all about rituals and ceremonies. That's what they get off on. I was saying earlier to these young ladies that I was speaking, it would be equivalent of, say, Christianity, or more specifically, the Catholic religion had been destroyed, and their books had been burned, and then they would be trying to figure out how to reconstruct themselves. And from what little they understood, they would say, "Oh, it's okay. We got some communion. It's all about passing out the communion." And they're all dressed like the Pope. They all want the big pointy hat, and they all want the vestments, and they replicated them from the pictures that they've seen. And they all want to, with the staff, and they all want to be called Pope. And you say, okay, well, at least they're trying to regain their religion. But all they got to do is maybe actually go read some books and find out what were the beliefs, of the Catholic Church. Find a basic catechism, which tells you what are the basic beliefs. We don't believe in books. That's the equivalent that we have today with our people. And I'll be honest, it's not simple, the study. Like I've told people, like those rabbis, they're going through the Torah, they go back and forth. They must be pretty stupid, because they go over the same pages again and again, their whole lives. Gee, they can't understand this book. Is it really that stupid? And they work on it, Well, it's either an extremely complicated book, or they're extremely stupid. Or there's something else going on. They're learning multiple layers, multiple meanings of something.